Hello and welcome. This is iBuzz and I'm your host, Nosheen Bukhari, bringing you the best and most exciting news from the entertainment industry. In today's episode, we will be discussing some hot topics from DC and Marvel, followed by, of course, the talk of the town, Mare of Easttown. And now it's time for the top stories of the day. Fawad Khan to reportedly star in Miss Marvel series. Scarlett Johansson is sad, saying goodbye to MCU after Black Widow. The Matrix 4 quietly adds Christina Ricci to an already impressive cast. Warner Brothers isn't happy with Robert Pattinson's starrer, The Batman, planning to delay it more. And Juno Awards 2021, The Weeknd wins 3 awards at virtual opening night. And now, moving to our top story of the day. While the world is waiting for The Batman starring Robert Pattinson with open arms, one cannot ignore the fact that the negative buzz surrounding the film has been haunting it since the inceptions. And now seems like the Matt Reeves directorial is facing one more roadblock, and it is not an external one. To have further discussion on the subject, we have Julio Martino, a film and theater director based in London. Welcome to the show, Julio.
Hello.
So another roadblock in the way of Batman release, and this time it's in-house, none other than Warner Brothers. How strange does that seem?
I think it's a very difficult time at the moment, and I think that the fact that people are striving to make a film and make a film as good as possible, and taking into account, the huge delays over coronavirus, people getting infected on set, which, must make filmmaking incredibly difficult and compromise a lot of the best choices along the way. I think that the important thing with any film project is they're striving to make as good a film as possible. So with regards to any recent delay, I'm not sure what that might be about. But I think you have to interpret that as trying to make as good a film as possible.
Right. The first roadblock was the casting of the Twilight actor itself. And now we all know that he's a great actor, but still, what could, in your opinion, what could be the possible reasons for not seeing Pattinson as a great fit for the character of Batman?
I think it's a mistake to sort of judge things like this before you see them. The people that make films are very, very smart. The producers who sit behind some of these choices are looking at things in ways that we perhaps don't see them. We haven't, seen this guy's audition or indeed, the rushes. And I think it's really interesting that they've got someone, certainly not the first thought you would have, expected when you thought of Batman. But if you remember when Tim Burton made Batman and they chose Michael Keaton, he was practically a stand-up comedian then, and everybody was questioning that. No one thought that would be a good choice. And he turned out to be, iconic Batman. I think he's going to come back and play the role again soon. His whole career was transformed by that. And so, I would be careful before assuming that he's not the right fit for it. We just don't know that.
Right. And we all know that DC is in a habit of experimenting with its lead roles when it comes to protagonists and antagonists both in Batman. Do you think that too much of this experiment has also cost the Batman character a lot?
Well, listen, if I was in charge, I'd be probably making the opposite mistakes and, trying to find someone that fit the comic character, to a T. But I actually think, as I've sort of said, I think what's interesting about these films is when they make interesting casting choices. It probably doesn't always make the fans happy, and that's a big problem. And I think in recent years, what superhero films have done often is given fans exactly what they want. And DC Comics have done that slightly less, I think. But this is something that we can't possibly judge until we see the film. We're sort of basing a lot of these reports on rumors and speculation from the set. You know, we don't know how much of it's true.
Right. Julio, of all the characters, Batman and Superman were the crowns of DC. We did witness some new characters joining the squad lately, but unfortunately they could not receive the same warm welcome by the fans as these two characters did. But now, in your opinion, according to the critics, they also have predicted this, but do you think that due to such incidents, Batman movies will be less popular because their future has been compromised, just like the Superman movies as well?
Well, you know, I think that what's sort of, you know, no one expected the Wonder Woman movie to be as big a success as it was. And I think there's certainly, you know, a scope for, you know, Warner Brothers and DC, when they hold such an amazingly large franchise, of exploring the other avenues. But it seems like we live in a world where if a film doesn't quite go as, you know, to plan, 2 or 3 years later, there'll be a new reboot, and then another reboot after that. And then even in the case of the Justice League, the original director comes back and presents his vision of the film. And I think studios have cottoned on to the fact that as long as they're sort of open to shifting and rebooting and coming up with different solutions to, you know, the current situation, they keep reintroducing characters again and again and again and again, and fans seem to want that, and I think they seem to enjoy the drama as well. So I mean, we're talking about it now, and it hasn't, you know, we've got no idea what it's going to be like. But I think that studios have cottoned on to that idea, and it's actually quite a profitable one.
Right, right. People had doubts in the beginning, but the first look took those away. Then came the pandemic and put everything on halt, and we all know the rumors of difference in opinion between Matt Reeves and Pattinson in the beginning as well. Now, new reports say that the film might see one more delay. In your opinion, how will that affect the fan base and the franchise itself? Do you think there is a possibility, or, you know, it's untouchable, nothing can happen?
Well, I think in the end, what matters is the film good or not, and do the fans like it, and do the wider audience like it, and that's really important as well, because studios have to make a film that appeals not just to die-hard fans, but they have to create a sensation like Wonder Woman or like Black Panther. That's their ideal, where suddenly everybody's talking about it for those 2, 3, 4 weeks, and people are going back to it for repeat viewings. That's the sort of holy grail of these type of movies. But I think that in this case, I think that it'll, you know, this is all to be seen. We just don't know yet. And I think that really we'll have to sort of just wait until the film comes out, and then we'll see whether it's going to be a success or not. Until then, I think that really the studios have got a job, and the director have got a job, just to try and make the best film possible. And if that requires a slightly longer delay, then so be it. I don't really see a problem with that.
Right, but since it's the era of social media, and you know, where opinions can be formed and deformed in minutes, overnight. So do you think that can also play a role before the release of movie, now that it has been delayed for one more time?
Yeah, I mean, it can do, and it certainly, you know, it certainly might do. But I think all those things sort of fall by the wayside when the film is finally released. I mean, people really just want to see a good film, and if the film disappoints, then that's going to be a big problem. And you know, their increasing risk of having spent more money will it's a failure. However, you know, films are often made with people arguing a lot, and there are great artistic partnerships forged between people that are sort of battling it out and arguing, and sometimes the best things are made in those circumstances, and sometimes the worst things are made where everybody agrees and gets along and thinks they've done a wonderful job, and then they turn around at the end of it and look at it, and it, you know, it doesn't amount up to much. So I think this, as I keep on saying, I think this really depends on what the film's giving in.
Right. Julio, of course, we're just talking about predictions and our expectations here. Matt Reeves, the Batman, looks set to avoid one of the few mistakes made by Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy by turning Gotham into a true character. And on November 23rd in 2020, we learned that the new Batman is fixing a Dark Knight trilogy Gotham mistake. Now, according to the latest update, where Warner Brothers seem to be upset with the filmmakers, In your opinion, what chances do you foresee for the movie on box office? Again, predictions, expectations.
That's really not my area of expertise. I wouldn't know, but as long as the film is good, I think there's every chance this will be a huge success, because what they've done is they've taken a younger star who's a really interesting actor, and instead of presenting somebody who's already a bit older, who's basically going to play a role, let's say a Batman or a superhero who's seen it all, they presented somebody, a character who can really go on a journey, who can, what was so great about, let's say, something like Star Wars is we started the film with a character who wasn't very good at what they were doing, who wasn't an expert, who made mistakes, and along the way learned how to become, in this case, a Jedi. And what's interesting about casting someone like Robert Pattinson is he's somebody that a younger audience can identify with. They can follow that character on a journey, and they can go through, the ups and downs, the trials and the tribulations, the failures, as well as the successes, before having a final triumphant success, hopefully at the end. And that's actually an enjoyable story that people can follow. And I think if, the filmmakers follow sort of really basic golden rules like that, then it should be something that they can connect with. That was the same, as I said, with, Wonder Woman and Black Panther. We saw films where the audience could follow these characters on a journey, and they could connect with them and, emotionally connect with them. And that's the most important thing. And if they get that right, then all these other things fall by the wayside, I think.
Right. And DC does not let anyone win when it comes to comic books. But when we talk about the same comics turning into films, there is a challenge in almost every other project they do. Moreover, the challenges are projected, and eventually everybody knows what is happening behind the scenes. What could be the possible reasons behind these endless challenges, and then, these challenges being projected all over the place?
Well, I think this is down to the fact that this film's been going on for so long, and it's been made under really, really difficult circumstances. And, most film projects haven't been able to happen in this period. It's only really, really big, complex projects where, there's an awful lot of money involved, but also a huge amount of logistics. And I think the longer something goes on, the longer, unfortunately, they had to stop when people caught coronavirus, that it gives time and it gives space for people to start wondering what's going on. It gives time for people to project failure onto a project, and whether it's true or not, we simply don't know. As I said, we'll have to find out.
Right. So as fans, we hope no more delays in the movie release. Julio, thank you very much indeed. It was wonderful having you on board.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
That was Julio Maria Martino with his opinions on the delay of the new Batman movie. And now moving on, has bagged his first ever Hollywood project. If these rumors are to be trusted, the popular Pakistani artist is all set to star in the upcoming Ms. Marvel series. According to its IMDb page, the star will be appearing in one episode of the new superheroine series. Farhan Akhtar, Nimra Bucha, and Samina Ahmed are reportedly part of the cast too. Marvel is yet to comment. The series will be directed by a number of Asian directors, including the Academy Award-winning Pakistani director Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. American actress Scarlett Johansson garnered a lot of love and applause for beautifully portraying the character of Natasha Romanoff in several films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. However, the 36-year-old actress is playing the character for the last time in her upcoming movie, Black Widow. Being associated with so loving a character is something worthwhile for Scarlett Johansson, so she is sad not only for her parting ways with her adorable character of Natasha Romanoff, but also she is saying goodbye to the MCU. However, she told that she is determined to keep her contact with the Marvel family alive all the time. Christina Ricci has been quietly cast in the still untitled Matrix sequel, tentatively titled The Matrix 4. This casting news comes from an updated press kit released by Warner Brothers, but details of her characters remain unknown. However, her casting is an exciting addition to the film slated to be released this December. Ricci joins a stacked cast that includes franchise favorites like Keanu Reeves, Carrie-Anne Moss, Jada Pinkett Smith, Daniel Bernhardt, and Lambert Wilson. She will also star alongside newcomers to the series, including Yahya Abdul-Mateen, Jessica Henwick, Neil Patrick Harrison, Priyanka Chopra, and Jonathan Groff. The 2021 Juno Awards kicked off on Friday night in a virtual ceremony, their first since the show was canceled early last year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Coming into the awards with the most nominations, R&B singer The Weeknd cemented his place as leader, but despite his triumphant night, the artist was a no-show. Many other artists accepted their awards by video feed, but the singer was surprisingly absent and didn't make an appearance for either of his wins, including Artist of the Year and Album of the Year. The Weeknd ultimately came away with 5 wins out of 6 nominations. And that is it from our newsroom. We will be right back after a quick short break. Stay tuned to find out more. Welcome back. In this segment, we will be reviewing Mare of Easttown. Mare Sheehan, an office police investigator in a small Pennsylvania town, investigates a brutal murder as she tries to keep her life from falling apart. The 7-episode series has become the most talked about as it ends in the month of May. To discuss this further, we have film critic Mayank Shekhar joining us from India. Mayank, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Nausheen.
So, Mayank, the story and writing are exceptional, realistic and gritty, showing off the blue-collar town, gloomy and dark settings of Pennsylvania. What were your initial thoughts on the series when you started watching?
Well, I think my first thought was the fact that I should not watch this show.
Right.
And that's because I've been following all the word around this show on social media. And because this is a show on HBO, that means every new episode drops every week. And so there's a build up to the finale. And everyone was talking about how it is about dealing with grief. And in this world right now, do I want to sit and watch a show which is about grief, which is what we're surrounded by in the first place? And I changed my mind eventually after everyone else had seen it. And I'm so glad I did. One, I had to, because it has become the word of the mouth series of the year. Absolutely everyone in the English-speaking world is watching and talking about Mare of Easttown. So you can't ignore it for sure. Second, it turns out it is not really a show about grief. It's a show about people who are going through stuff and who've been through stuff in life, right? And who hasn't. So there is a connect, there is a relatability as well. And you just genuinely fall for each and every character for what they're going through. So that you relate to people as lives of others. So by itself, the crime, which is the death of one person or one person missing, the 2 crimes here, it may not seem as huge to you in terms of proportion of deaths that we've sort of encountered in the past few months in the world in any case. But you care because you care for the people around involved on the series. And that's a fascinating, product of some excellent writing, which I'm so glad I watched this miniseries.
True. Talking about Kate Winslet's role, she always gets typecast in certain roles, and according to the critics, this is one of her best performances. I would like to know your opinion on that.
I don't think I've seen a performance in very long. While you're watching it, you know for sure that particular performance or that particular performer is going to sweep every top award there is at the year. She's up for whatever is the top award on television. Of course, Emmys is hers. Kate Winslet is going to win the Best Actor award wherever it is given anywhere in the world for sure. Multiple reasons, of course. I think one is, of course, she plays this cop in a small town where everything is such a small town that everything that happens to her professionally is actually personal to her. Also, she's in the town, and one particular case, in fact, every witness and evidence that comes along actually circles back to her own social circle. All right. Then there is the other side of her, which is what she's going through in her own personal life. You can almost feel her mind, sinking like the Titanic, if I may say Titanic, because that's really the role that the whole world knew her first from back in 1994. These are the deadest eyes you'll ever see. Also, at the same time, these eyes reveal and conceal a really charming personality as well. And it's possibly the bravest thing that an actor could do. You know, she used to be the heartthrob back in the 90s. If all of us remember that, right?
Yeah.
And here she is coming out as a grandmother in a grandmother's role.
Exactly.
But more importantly, plays it like any other character would be. They don't make a big deal of that aspect.
Yeah.
You know, and you just drawn to her in every scene, in every moment, all through the scene.
The creative team on the show did a wonderful job getting you to identify and fall in love with the characters almost from the first time they're on camera.
Exactly. And I think what's also important for viewers to note, and this I'm talking about people who have not seen the show, is not to get too carried away by all these things that I've mentioned so far, because at the end of the day, it is an extremely exciting murder mystery that the audience has to solve. It has all the tropes that you should expect from a really good murder mystery, which is the fact that it's in a sleepy town, of course, which is the fact that all the characters are pretty quirky. And at every unpredictable turn, you know, a new mystery, a new doubt is seeded, a new mystery, has to be uncovered. Just when you think you've sort of found a killer, you realize that you really haven't, and you start guessing again. And so there's a jungle of conjectures all through when you're watching it, like a whodunit should be. So it's got all the elements of a gentle relationship drama. But more importantly, it strikes checks every box that you would need for a very, very engaging whodunit or a murder mystery, as it were. At no point, do your eyes, get off the actual crime that's taking place.
Exactly.
You're always interested in that as well.
Absolutely. So, Mayank, the supporting cast has also been remarkable, but then again, there's always this one or more favorite characters that, being a critic, you cannot take your eyes off from. So which one of those have been your top favorites, and of course, why?
Well, of course, there is Mare of Easttown. The show is itself called that, and it is centered on Mare, the character played by Kate Winslet, who's a cop in action in Easttown, which is like this, sleepy town, as I said, off the U.S. East Coast. I actually Googled, the town really exists. I thought maybe that was also fictional. But if I had to pick one of the entire lot outside of Mare, it would have to be the buddy cop. That's Evan Peters. Now, all these murder mysteries and cop thrillers have the lead cop and the buddy cop, because they can have conversations and solve a case together. But the beauty of this particular buddy cop is also that you can have some philosophical take on stuff that Mare says to her. And, she tells him about how greatness is overrated, and the fact that once you're great, then everyone expects that out of you, whereas you're probably as screwed up as everyone else. So there's a light, mild philosophy, pop philosophy going on between the two of them. There's a mild interest level that both of them share, even outside of professional work. So it's a very interesting dynamic. He comes from outside the town. He's actually a county cop who's come to help Mare with solving the case. So there's also initially a little bit of territory war going on. So I think the character develops really well and fits in beautifully with the cast in general, but also with Mare, because that's the person you're really looking at all through the show.
Right. And Mayank, there are some stories that are simply meant to end, and it's tough to argue that Mare of Easttown is not one of them. What is your take on that?
Well, honestly speaking, something that becomes as hugely popular as this show, anybody would look for a second season. But at least they did not do anything while making it or while writing it, keeping a second season in mind, which is a great thing, because they put all their effort and their talent into one. It is, it has been touted as a mini series. So I don't know whether there will be another Mare of Easttown, but I'm absolutely certain if there is, the whole world will await it immensely.
Yeah, so although the story unfolds in a complete manner in the end, leaving no cliffhangers, so again, I would ask you that, do you see potential for the series to appear as a second season? And if so, then what do you expect and predict, if your answer is affirmative?
Well, you take example of any of these shows. For instance, recently, in fact, last week, Family Man 2 dropped on Amazon Prime Video, which is this hugely popular Indian series. Now, Family Man 1 has no relation to Family Man 2. but the only relation is the fact that the characters are roughly the
Exactly.
same, and then you add new cast to it. Likewise, if there was a Mare of Easttown 2, you will still have Mare, that's Kate Winslet, and you will still have Easttown. And within that particular milieu, you can come up with various stories to tell. So it won't be surprising if there is a sequel, because the sequel would not be an extension of the story, but an extension of the franchise. And I totally see that coming if there is one, and I would totally look forward to it as well.
Right, right. Mayank, it's always wonderful to have you for discussion. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, Noshi.
That was Mayank Shekhar with his reviews on Mare of Easttown. And that is it from today's episode. We hope you liked it. Again, don't forget to share your feedback on the social media link mentioned down below. We'll see you next time with some more interesting news. Until that time, take care and goodbye.